YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back. Already back with an updated NFL mock draft. Just did one. And now Frank Clark gets traded. The Seahawks acquire the Chiefs' first round pick. So that changes pretty much everything. Rashan Gary's injury makes him slide a little bit, possibly into the second round. Montez Sweat. I was aware of his health concern before, but it might be a little more serious now. We'll see where I have him going. And a lot of other rumors floating around like crazy. Can't believe all of it, though. It's smoke season, but some of it has to be true. Looking at Baker Mayfield at this time last year, which I did not believe. So, and again, we're going to be live during the NFL draft. We start a little earlier, 6:30 p.m. Central, live right here on YouTube throughout the whole draft there in the first round. And then we'll have live predictions, reactions, analysis, winners, losers. So hopefully you can join. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's my favorite day of the year. To this mock, a lot of things change, and I have trades in here with the exact trade scenarios, and we see from my last mock what trades can do, how they can change things up. And once again, the mock is completely different with all the news floating around, and with one different trade, it lets somebody else become available for a team, and it just changes everything. That's just the beauty of the NFL draft. But let's take a look at the first 8 picks. I still got Kyler Murray at 1. Yeah, I explain my reasoning every time, but and they're saying that the Cardinals don't know who they're picking. They know who they're picking. If they really don't know who they're picking, they got a problem over there. I think they knew they were taking him when they brought him in for a visit with his agents. He fits. I think it's the pick. I hope I'm wrong. I really do, because I want to see just madness, and that's what it would be if Kyler Murray wasn't the first pick. I don't know where he would go, but that's my pick. But I really hope I'm wrong, just for entertainment purposes. The Niners, this seems like the sure thing pick here, the Niners, but it'd be crazy if they didn't take Nick Bosa. But he's a fit. He's definitely got to be number 1 on their board, and they get to choose from pretty much who's number 1 on their board. So that's why I'm going 2. The Jets, I still think they can trade back. I still think they like Jonah Williams, who I had taken the last mock, but have him staying put. All these rumors coming out that they really, really like Ed Oliver tells me that they either like Josh Allen or Quinnen Williams. And they left an open hole. Pretty much the only spot they left a hole, or besides corner, but they didn't really have an opportunity to grab a corner, was pass rusher. And they tried to get Anthony Barr. As soon as they had the verbal agreement, Greg Williams is going out saying he's going to be my secret weapon, my Swiss Army knife, I think he called him. And Josh Allen, similar comparisons coming out of college to Anthony Barr. So I think they'll definitely like him. Definitely a better pass rusher than Barr. Athletic freak for his size. It's just hard to pass on a guy like that. And he just gets you sacks. That's what he does. Gets you sacks and can do more, too, at the same time. 4, I have the Raiders going Quinnen Williams, defensive lineman, Alabama. Rumors going around this is going to be a wild pick. They could surprise people. I think they're trying to bring out they may take a quarterback. I don't think they take a quarterback, but it is interesting that the scouts and both Gruden and Mayock are in disagreement with each other. So basically, Mayock and Gruden are on the same side against the scouts, apparently. So maybe that could be because one side wants quarterback, one side does not. I really can't think of anything else, but it could be between Quinnen Williams or Devin White. I think the surprising pick would be Devin White, and it's very realistic that it could be that. But Quinnen Williams, I've been, over the years with Mayock, with his board, in his rankings, I thought he'd done a very good job. I don't really see myself similar to anybody, but if I had to pick one, I thought my rankings made a little similar to Mayock's. There's some years where it's, actually way off, but so I think he's got to see Quinnen Williams number 1 like I do. But Devin White is very fun, and that's why I'm going there at 5 to the Bucs. I think it's going to be too good to pass here at this point for them. They lost Quan Alexander. There's some people that really like Devin White. They may even have him top 3 on their board. They get him at 5. They'll like him. Too good of a player for them to trade back to. 6, I have the Giants taking Dwayne Haskins. I'm a believer that before all the smoke, they like Dwayne Haskins, and I'm kind of going back to that. Most years, that's how it ends up being. And then all of a sudden, some nonsense comes out right when the draft comes out or is about to hit, saying they like somebody else. In this scenario, Daniel Jones. And usually the Daniel Jones part would be false, but look at last year with Baker Mayfield, but that was the first pick. So I still think the Giants like Haskins, and I think they'll take him at 6. They could even trade up to play it safe, because when teams fall in love with quarterbacks, they want to make sure they get him. They also have the ammo to go up. I bring up the Bears. A couple years ago, they traded up one spot to get Trubisky, and even though I didn't really agree with it at the time, you got to respect it. You can't blame him at all, because they needed to make sure they got their quarterback. So it's definitely understandable. And that was only one spot. So I think the Giants could, they could look to move with the Jets, but I don't know if the Jets want to trade back with Josh Allen on the board. 7, I got the Jags taking Jawaan Taylor at 7, the offensive line from Florida, plug and play right tackle, dominant. Did very well against Josh Allen. The Jaguars need a right tackle specifically. I think their line's looking pretty good. I think pretty underrated after they get that right tackle. Nick Foles needs that line. Big reason why the Eagles won the Super Bowl with Nick Foles was because of many things, but offensive line was the best in football. So go get Jawaan Taylor. The Falcons, I had them trading up to get out Ed Oliver in the last mock, and I have them do it again right here. And it's tricky to decide where they'll trade up, but Oliver's getting all this talk, up even top 3. I think he drops a little bit. I think the Falcons are a candidate to trade up for Quinnen Williams if he starts to drop to maybe 5. They get on the phone with the Bucs, but division rival, will that happen? But Ed Oliver here, and the Lions I think would like to move back. The reason I didn't have him moving back in the last one was because Devin White was there. He was too good to pass up. But if this scenario, they could take Ed Oliver, they could take TJ Hawkinson, but they trade back. The Falcons come up and get Ed Oliver because the Falcons are a Super Bowl team. They're a Super Bowl team right now, even without the draft, I think, if they stay healthy. But what they really need is another D lineman next to Grady Jarrett, and a dominant guy like Ed Oliver could help them get there and complete their team. So I really like, I'm not guaranteeing it. It may look like that because I had the Falcons trading up for the same player, and I also mentioned in both videos they could go for Quinnen Williams. I mentioned that the last 2 videos, so I'm not guaranteeing it, though. It's just something that just really, kind of just gets to me, and I think it's very possible. And we'll take a look at the trade details I had for that, the Lions and the Falcons. So pretty good haul the Lions get here. It could be a second-round pick, but in terms of the value, it's a little off. The Lions would owe something back. So I thought this was more realistic. The Lions, they traded up a few times last year, and they need some more ammo to move around. Even if it's a couple spots, I think they're one of those teams. They want to move up in the mid rounds, a couple spots to make sure they get the guy they really like. So they'll need the rest of the ammo or just picks to do that. And with 3rd and then 2 fourths instead of a 2nd, I think they'll rather have that. But since they're getting a lot of picks there, I think the Falcons get one back, even though it's a late round 7. So they do swap 8 and 14, in case you didn't already figure that one out. So pretty good deal there. I really think the Falcons they could use a corner too, but that's what the second round's for. Maybe a pass rusher of the future, but nothing right now. But I really think they're a contender with the right player here. Not too many pieces needed. So yeah, that's the first 8 picks. We'll get to some more trades here. So yeah, a lot going on this page. We'll get to it. The Bills, and please let me explain myself. I know people probably fast forward and cut the video off, but I felt very good about this mock and these moves. I feel real good about it, so I'll explain myself. The Bills, Jonah Williams, offensive lineman, Alabama. Maybe too good to pass. Some teams view him as easily a top 8 player, and they definitely want to keep Josh Allen protected for the future. Offensive line got better, but could even get better with a guy like Jonah Williams who can move around from guard to tackle. The Broncos take Drew Lock, quarterback, Missouri. He's still on the board here. Nobody hopped them in this scenario, to take Drew Lock. I think the Redskins could be interested, but the Broncos take him. It's their style quarterback for the future. I think Flacco starts right away. And then recently I saw Elway said he's not 100% certain on Lock, like he's not convinced on him or anything. To me, that it's probably smoke. Doesn't mean they'll for sure take him, but I think he likes him. So I have Lock going to the Broncos, the future quarterback there. And they got a lot of young talent everywhere. They got Phillip Lindsay last year. They drafted Cortland Sutton, Deshaun Hamilton. They got Bradley Chubb. They got young talent. They just brought in a new coach, so they want a young quarterback. Doesn't have to start right away. But to me, it just makes sense. The Bengals, this one just seems like one I don't want to switch. I like Devin Busher, worthy of the pick, dominant linebacker, flies around the field, can cover. The Bengals need a guy like that, so they take the pick. And another one I kept was the Packers with TJ Hawkinson, tight end, Iowa. Upgrades them in every way. It's the type of tight end they're looking for. Helps Rodgers, helps the run game. By far the best tight end in the class. You don't really see tight ends like this often, and they can afford to do it because they have 2 first-round picks. So now we have a trade. We have the Giants moving up. So they took Dwayne Haskins, and now they move up for Brian Burns from 17. You ask why? Before there was a possibility Burns can be there at 17. Now we got Rashan Gary hurt, and we have Montez Sweat dropping a little bit. Brian Burns is going to come off the board much earlier. It could even be earlier in this. And then specifically, you look at the fit too. The Giants run a 3-4. How many true 3-4 outside linebackers are going to be here? I think Burns is a must-have here for the Giants. So, and they have the ammo to do so. So they're going to have to come up to make sure they secure the guy. So Giants kind of got hurt by Rashan Gary and Sweat being, Rashan Gary being hurt, Montez Sweat health concern, they could drop. The Giants kind of got hurt because of that, because I think they like Burns a little better than those guys either way. Maybe Sweat if he's 100%. Gary to me doesn't fit their 3-4 if they indeed keep that. So Burns to me has to be their guy, and they're going to have to move up to get him, and he's a very good pass rusher and run stopper too. Let's take a look at the trade details. They traded with the Miami Dolphins. Don't know if I mentioned that. They picked 13th. The Dolphins looking to trade back possibly to gain more picks because they have some needs. So they swapped 13 and 17. Actually, consulting the draft chart, not a huge difference in value from 13 to 17, a little less than you would think, but the Dolphins grab a 3rd and a 4th round pick. The 2nd round pick would be too rich, too early. So a 3rd and a 4th there for the Dolphins there. And that could help them in a Rosen trade if they decide to do that. That can very much help them. So they move back a little bit and gain 2 extra picks. And back to the mock draft. So the Giants are taking Brian Burns there. It's the guy I know that'll fit their defense, and I think they'll like. And then we saw the Lions trade back. We already went over the details. They grabbed a good haul of picks. Nothing super high, though. And they move back and get a much-needed position at corner here in Greedy Williams. To me, Greedy Williams, I don't want to say by far the best corner because there's a couple other solid ones, but to me it's pretty clear. I didn't really have to think about it too much. Greedy Williams is my number 1 corner, mainly because the potential and the athleticism, and he's a playmaker while needing to brush some techniques up a little bit. But the Lions will like him. Opposite of Darius Slay will make a lot of sense. They've been missing. Really, you need 2 number 1 corners. People say, okay, Darius Slay is our number 1 corner. Our number 2 is, this guy, or is Tease Tabor going to step up? He's more of a slot guy in my opinion. And he can definitely do that, slide in the inside. But Greedy Williams, another number 1 corner with Slay, I like it. And they gain picks with it. I like it. 15, the Redskins go Daniel Jones, quarterback Duke. I think they'll like Drew Lock a lot, but I also think they'll like Daniel Jones. Rumors coming out that they really like Dwayne Haskins. I'm kind of taking that as smoke. You got to start the pick. What's smoke and what's not. Sometimes it's just a feeling, I think that Dwayne Haskins is smoke, and they'll like Daniel Jones. They could try to trade up for Lock. They don't want to give up too much. Daniel Jones, it just sounds like he's going in the 1st round. I'm believing all that. I think he's going in the 1st round. But really, if the Giants don't take him, don't really have interest in him, and they get the other quarterback, that's really the thing that will possibly keep him going to the 2nd round. But I also think the Redskins and the Broncos are possibilities as well. As you can see here, I have the Redskins taking me at 15. He'll learn behind Keenum. Would I make that pick for the Redskins? Definitely not, but it's just predict the pick. It's what I see. So the Raiders, and I felt very good about this scenario here. The Raiders trade with the Panthers, move up and get Montez Sweat. Montez Sweat's dropping because of a heart condition, but they let him pass. They passed him at the combine. They passed him at Mississippi State. He passed at the combine. He was able to do all the workouts, have that crazy workout that he did. He's He's easily a top 10 player for me. Good production with crazy potential and athleticism. The Raiders are running a 4-3. He fits their defense perfectly. They need this guy. They couldn't take pass rush with the early pick because Quinnen Williams was there, too good to pass, and you add Montez Sweat. This is dominant. You have the ammo to do so. And interesting, why am I not worried about Sweat with this heart condition? Because, like I mentioned, they let him pass the combine. You go a year ago, look back a year ago, a guy that did drop from the 1st round, because of a heart condition was an Oakland Raider, Maurice Hurst, and they did not let him work out. So it made sense that he dropped. Raiders seem to be okay with a little more alarming Maurice Hurst, and he was able to stay on the field, and they got Sweat here. A fit, and we know they're not afraid to really go there. So I really like this. I felt real good about this if he starts to drop, and it makes sense for the Panthers too because there's somebody I like for the Panthers there. So the Raiders and Panthers swap picks, and the Panthers also grab 4th round, 7th round, and a 2022. The 2nd rounder for this year would be a little too rich, and it would probably be that alone, 24th and and this year's second, but they would probably have to give something back because it's a little, high in value because it's early. So instead, they take a 2020 second next year and also gain a 4th and a 7th this year. I like that deal a lot with the Panthers, and I have no problem with the Raiders because they come up and get a guy that makes them way better instantly, and he's a very, very good fit in my opinion. If he was fully healthy and the Raiders took him at their earlier pick, I still think it would be a good pick. So good deal for both teams. We'll get to the Panthers pick in a little bit, and you'll probably see it here, but we'll get there and I'll explain it. But the Dolphins moved back, and it was tough deciding here because when I had to move back, I kind of knew who I had them targeting, but they also strongly considered Dexter Lawrence, really the Clemson guys, Dexter Lawrence, Christian Wilkins, Cleveland Farrell, because they could be highly interested in all those guys. But Cody Ford, to me, instant right tackle, also going to be a guard. The Dolphins, people don't really talk about it enough. They need offensive line. They need to get that offensive line ready for whoever their quarterback might be. Fitzmagic, a quarterback in this class, Josh Rosen. They need to get it ready. I'm a fan of making sure that talent's there. The quarterback's protected before he's in there and he's getting, hurt and rushed. And, a quarterback that gets thrown into that doesn't do too well. Then he gets pulled. It messes up his career. I think a team and what players are on the field can mess up a quarterback's career early in their career. So go get a guy like Cody Ford. Plug and play right tackle, which they need. Worst case scenario, he's starting at guard for you. The Vikings at 18, they would love to have Cody Ford, but they would love to have Andre Dillard here, and it's possible he can be gone before this, but I have them taking him. He's an instant left tackle. I think they can move Riley Reif to left guard, keep Brian O'Neill at right tackle. I'm a fan. I really like Brian O'Neill. He was their best offensive lineman as a second-round rookie, and he didn't even start right away, and he's considered undersized. But I'm a fan of keeping him at right tackle. If he does so good at right tackle, and that's where he played in college, why are you going to move him to left tackle? So I would actually, and then you get Dillard, who seems to be a pro-ready left tackle. And I mean, maybe you can slide him to guard too and keep Reif at left tackle. So I think you strengthen up that left side here and keep O'Neill at the right tackle. That makes a lot of sense to me. So if you are going to get a tackle, go for the left, or go for a guy that can slide in the guard. The Titans, decision here. Going Dexter Lawrence, going Christian Wilkins, or going Marquise Brown. That's really where the decisions are at. I went with Dexter Lawrence here. I think he fits the Titans more than Christian Wilkins. Dexter Lawrence, I think, first glance, I think he's going much higher in 19, but this is where I end up having him. He's an elite run stopper now with potential as a pass rusher. He has the abilities in him. If people would say he has no production, well, freshman year he had 7 sacks. Last 2 seasons he had good pressure and some sacks, not as much as 7, but he has the abilities in him is my point. A coach like Mike Vrabel and Dean Pease can definitely get it out of him here. I would like this pick very much for them. The Steelers go Byron Murphy. Greedy Williams gone. Devin Bush gone. Byron Murphy or DeAndre Baker's the decision. I just think Murphy goes earlier. I think he's more of a fit with the Steelers. Kind of like that Joe Hayden type. And Joe Hayden's getting older. He's going to be a free agent next year, so Murphy would be the replacement there. Quick guy to cover that Browns offense too. Makes a lot of sense. The Seahawks they got 2 first-round picks now, post Frank Clark trade. But they go Christian Wilkins, so you may be expecting a pass rusher, but Christian Wilkins brings some pass rush, also stops the run, and he's just definitely too good to pass at this point, and the Seahawks will know that. They will not be able to pass on Christian Wilkins, and they have 2 first-round picks and get a pass rusher with the other one. So Christian Wilkins still on the board. I was surprised that Dexter Lawrence and Christian Wilkins were still on the board. The Ravens are stuck with Marquise Brown still. Perfect fit with Lamar Jackson. Makes a lot of sense here. I believe he's got to be their number 1 receiver. And then the Texans go Dalton Risner, offensive lineman, Kansas State, can play guard, can play tackle. They could use either, whichever one they feel more comfortable with him. That makes sense. I prefer tackle, but to try out at tackle. But a lot of offensive line off the board already and more to come. The offensive line class is very good, and people want to make sure they get the ones that fit and are good early. The Texans also can go receiver. That would be a wild card there, or possibly DeAndre Baker would be a wild card in that scenario too. The Panthers trade back and go Greg Little, offensive lineman, Ole Miss. He was in first-round mocks, before the smoke and everything. He kind of went down a little bit. He has moments where he looks like maybe the best offensive lineman in this class. Elite tackle. And then he has his moments where he definitely needs work. So people are really split on him. I'd feel a little more comfortable in the second, honestly. But the Panthers, I've noticed when I was doing my first round sleepers video, I was doing a little more research, and they've met with him 4 different times, whether it was a workout or a meeting, 4 different times, which is, I don't want to say unusual. It happened here and there, but average is 2 maybe to a player that somebody that a team likes 2. So 4 different times, and they know they can trade back. They got a bunch of picks. They got next year pick too, and they still get their guy here. So they still get their guy and get a bunch of picks. I like that, even though it may seem a little high for little, but with the right coaching, this guy, you can keep that guy consistent and help him reach that potential there. So I like that deal for the Panthers, gaining some picks. Moving on to the next group of teams. I stuck with Garrett Bradbury, the Eagles. It's just a player they got to have, I think, and I think they can even trade up for him. Jason Kelce hurt a lot last year, played through it, a lot of it. Very impressive, but he thought about retiring. So if he thought about retiring, he can't have long, and he's a big reason their offense line's been good, and they won a Super Bowl. They also need a left guard right now. So Bradbury has experience at both. He can play guard now, play center. It makes a lot of sense to me. The Colts take DK Metcalf, too good to pass. I can still see him going even really early, even like up towards the top 10, even just because you don't see a guy this size with that much speed every day and going against SEC competition, how he played very well. So the Colts, I don't know if we'd be able to pass on him. The Raiders help their defense a lot with the other 2 picks. They go Noah Fant, the tight end from Iowa here, and fill that hole. The Chargers, I stuck with Jeffrey Simmons, D-tackle, Mississippi State. Like I mentioned, they can afford to do this, a top 5 player in this draft if healthy. And they can afford to do this because they have maybe the most complete roster in football. The Seahawks with the Chiefs pick, they gain this in the Frank Clark trade, and they get the Frank Clark replacement in Rashan Gary. Really thought about Clelin Ferrell because I had him taking Christian Wilkins. That'd be awesome, the Clemson pairing, and they definitely could go Ferrell. To me, I think they have more interest in Gary, and I think they'd take a chance on him here. Apparently he has a labrum injury. Some teams will be a little worried about it, some teams not. I already heard some teams think he already can play through it. It's not huge, it's not super serious, but some teams at this point panic a little bit, so he will drop. But excellent value here. He fits, and they did get Rasheem Green from last year. Let's see if he steps up too. But Gary, I think they will like. Packers go Chris Lindstrom. He's getting some first-round talk now. Could even go higher in this. The guard from Boston College. The Packers definitely need to, I don't want to say revamp because there's definitely pieces, definitely pretty good pieces here and there, but it really wasn't the same last year as it has been, and that's kind of a reason Rodgers got hurt. So they definitely need another guy here, and Lindstrom definitely fits their offensive line. Another offensive lineman, the Rams take Eric McCoy, offensive line, Texas A&M. I think he plays, he can play guard or center for them. They let Sullivan go, but they did draft pretty well last year. They got Brian Allen, but they also lost Saffold. I like McCoy's potential at guard, but he has experience at both. He did very well against top competition last year. Guys that are already off the board in this draft, he did very well on. So Eric McCoy moving up my board big time and moving up other people's. From what I hear, he definitely can be a first rounder. And with the offensive line talent coming off the board already, I think this is very realistic. Could be a trade back spot early in the second round. They may be able to grab him. And Clelin Ferrell, too good to pass here to the Patriots. I thought he would move up a little bit, with these other injuries, but, still had Gary and Sweat going ahead of him. I still think teams will like them a little more. Ferrell, lacking a little athleticism doesn't bother me. This would be a great pick for the Patriots here. Just too good to pass on. So there's that first round. We're going to move on to the second round here. I feel real good about this mock, even though it's near impossible to get these things darn accurate because all the trades and surprises. But the Cardinals, I got taking N'Keal Harry. He's somehow still on the board here. He definitely should be a first-round lock, but as you can see, doesn't look like he is a lock at all. The Cardinals grab him. They definitely need a receiver, too good to pass. Colts take DeAndre Baker, corner Georgia, another guy you may consider a first-round talent. So on the board, the Colts take him. Raiders, Josh Jacobs, running back Alabama. I've had this pick for a while, still feeling it. A.J. Brown to the Niners, wide receiver from Ole Miss. They definitely need a receiver. A.J. Brown is a first-round talent, another guy just too good to pass. The Giants grabbed their quarterback, their pass rusher. They need that right tackle. Howard is experienced at right tackle and left. They grab him here. The Jags go Hakeem Butler. They needed that bigger outside receiver, and that's where Hakeem Butler comes in, definitely to help out Nick Foles. The Bucs go Jonathan Abrams, safety of Mississippi State. From what I've seen and heard, they're pretty high on him, and then they make him the first safety off the board, which I've also heard that he could be the first safety off the board. But at the same time, I can see more of a true safety going a little earlier. It's possible, but I do have him first off the board here. The Bucs will like his play. Him with Devin White, two very solid defensive players. The Bills go Paris Campbell, receiver, Ohio State. They have a pretty deep receiver unit, but no top-tier guys. Paris Campbell is that all-around guy. Definitely helped the team out a lot. here at pick 40, and then we're on to the next 8. Another too good to pass. I just don't see Vic Fangio and the Broncos, how they like defense, being able to pass on Jerry Tillery. He also had a labrum injury, so he's recovering very well, though, so he could drop a little bit, but the Broncos grab him there. Too good to pass. Bengals go Caleb McGarry, offensive lineman, Washington. He's getting a little first-round talk, too, but I think he slides a little bit back here. Could play right tackle or guard. Bengals, offensive line definitely needs more upgrades going forward. The Lions go Irv Smith Jr., tight end from Alabama. I don't know if he gets by this point here, unless somebody trades up for him. Maybe the Patriots trade up for him ahead of the Lions. Packers go Taylor Rapp, too good to pass. This pick would be excellent, in my opinion. To me, he's a first-round safety. Very instinctive, plays all over the place. You just don't see safeties like that, and he's just really getting slept on, all because of 140-yard dash time. Packers pair him with Adrian Amos with those corners they got last year. Wow. The Falcons go Rock Ya-Sin. I think it's a good fit. I think they're looking for another physical corner there, and they've shown interest. They get the Temple corner there. Redskins grab their quarterback in the first, and they get Deebo Samuel at 46. Tremendous value there. A do-it-all receiver slot outside. Panthers grab an offensive lineman in the first. They go with a pass rusher, much-needed pass rusher here. Ja'Kai Polite, I have a late first-round grade on because of his elite traits in the pass rush game. He's kind of just dropped a little bit because of the other talent, and because apparently his meetings with some teams didn't go too well. Other teams don't really know what was said in those meetings, so it shouldn't affect everybody here. Just identifying the teams is the tricky part. The Panthers, I don't think, would be able to pass on him. They need a guy like this. The Dolphins, LJ Collier is just got Dolphins written all over him to me. Brian Flores defense. He can play end or 3 technique in that defense. It just makes a lot of sense. They've also shown interest. In my last mock, I had this pick traded to the Cardinals for Josh Rosen. I definitely can see that still. But this one I decided to keep this. They could definitely like to pick up a guy like Collier here in the second. Next 8 picks. Browns, I just really like Thornhill for him. Could be wrong, but I've been sticking with that for a while. The safety from Virginia. I mentioned how he used to be a corner, and he might be a top 5 corner in this class if he was listed at corner, but instead he's my number 2 safety. Very athletic, can play strong safety, can play in the box. I like the Byron Jones comparison. The Vikings go Charles Omenihu. Pretty good value here, and a very solid defensive lineman for them. I think he slides in, can play the 3 technique or normal defensive tackle, but did have some good pass rush last year, so could be a defensive end still, but the Vikings seem to, Zimmer seems to like these types of guys inside a little bit, and they lost Sheldon Richardson. The Titans go Jalen Ferguson, a potential late first. He was still on the board. I like him an outside linebacker in their defense. They grabbed Dexter Lawrence and Jalen Ferguson. Pretty impressive there. Sack machine out of LA Tech. Steelers go Nasir Adderley, safety Delaware. I see a fit here. I just see him perfect with Terrell Edmonds as the duo of the future. Adderley more of that playmaker, totally different than Edmonds, and I think a good duo, a good pair together. And I think the Steelers will like him a lot around here. They actually could go at Mac Wilson, who I have going next. Eagles definitely need another inside linebacker. They grab Mac Wilson from Alabama. The Texans, I've had Juwan Williams here for a while. I think he's a fit. I think they'll be very interested in him because of his length too. The corner out of Vandy. Pretty instinctive for a corner as well. And they go Darnell Savage, safety from Maryland. I've noticed they've shown pretty good interest in safeties such as Savage and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. But I think grabbing a corner right before this, Savage will make a little more sense after because there's a chance that Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, I think most likely, it's a very good chance he'll be a slot guy, which could be considered a corner really, where he lined up most of the time. So Savage makes a little more sense. The Patriots go Jay Sternberger. They get their tight end. Not quite. You can't really call him a Gronk replacement, but you get the next best tight end in the class here, who they also shown interest in, the tight end out of Texas A&M. Next 8 picks. Eagles grab Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, the safety, like I mentioned, slot player from Florida, pretty good playmaker. There they grab him. And then the Cowboys go Deontay Thompson, the safety from Alabama. I think was kind of overrated during the year, but now all of a sudden he's underrated. People just scratch him off the board in terms of first and second round. I definitely think he's a second rounder. Insane range, very good in the pass game, could work on the run game, but the Cowboys need a guy for the pass game back there. The Colts go Draymond Jones, D lineman from Ohio State, could use another defensive lineman. The Chargers go Trayvon Mullen, corner Clemson. This is their type of corner, I think. I think they're very picky about their corners. Julian Love is more of that Desmond King type, so they already have that, but they want a guy for outside, so more of Trayvon Mullen there out of Clemson. And the Chiefs go Julian Love, cornerback from Notre Dame, can play inside or out. Pass breakup machine the last couple years. So the Chiefs traded for Frank Clark, so they got their pass rusher. Now they can get their corners here. And they have other needs too, but mainly corners here, and they grab another one very shortly here. The Saints go Blake Cashman, linebacker, Minnesota. Maybe you feel a little more comfortable about him early third, but he's a high motor player, instinctive. The Saints have shown really, a lot of interest in him, so I thought that was interesting. So this could be the pick here. The Chiefs go at Lonnie Johnson Jr., corner from Kentucky. Another guy that's getting a little bit of first-round talk. Don't think it happens, though. So they grab two corners here, which they need, and two different style corners, ones that can fit their defense, but different types of corners here in Julian Love and Lonnie Johnson Jr. And the Patriots go Miles Boykin, wide receiver from Notre Dame. He's getting a lot of buzz lately from the Patriots. They've shown interest, but a lot of teams really like him because he's a very good route runner, good size, and he was excellent at the combine, and he showed improvement too. He got in better shape. Some guys, like Boykin, you don't really see on the film how they did that at the combine. Tons of guys every year, so that kind of falls under Boykin's category. But you can see he definitely got in more shape, so that was very impressive. I thought about McCole Hardman here for the Patriots as well, but I went with Boykin. They've shown some interest in him there. And, he's at times he kind of reminded me at Notre Dame as one of those slot tight ends. And, they're trying to replace Gronk, and Gronk did so many different things. You get Jay Sternberger and you get Miles Boykin. Maybe you need two guys. They're not the same player. I'm not saying that. Obviously, one's a tight end and one's a receiver. But sometimes you need two of those players that have different styles but somewhat similar to combine to equal Gronk. So type of players they'll like. And Boykin, it definitely has the length to play outside. That's the thing with him. He was very good on the sideline too, at the same time of being solid inside for a bigger guy. So I think the Patriots definitely like him. So that'll do it. I did 2 rounds for this. There's a chance I might have to update it again, so just wanted to do 2 rounds, get this out there for you guys because I was really excited to do it, but I really wanted to get on it because all the news and the Frank Clark trade coming out. So there's a chance we have to update this again. I'm fine with it. We'll do 2 rounds. We'll pump out 2 rounds again. A couple more videos I want to get to before the NFL draft, and again, we're going to be live during the NFL draft. Any questions that you really want me to get to? I look at the comments all the time, but I'm not constantly looking at the comments. I'm constantly on Twitter, and there's our Twitter in the bottom right, and then there's a link in the description too. So I'm constantly on there. If you have any questions about this or who your team might target in the rounds after this, and you really want an answer, I'm never going to let anybody down unless it's pure ridiculousness. I never let anybody down on Twitter. So go ahead, follow us there. Much appreciated. And tweet at us. 20K is our subscriber goal. Click that like button, subscribe button, notification button. All that much appreciated. Will be big time. But that's going to do it for, I don't know what mock draft this was. We did a lot of them, but I really enjoyed doing it. Love the NFL draft. Hopefully you guys can join us for the rest of the videos and the live stream. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.